The following is a Michigan Sesquicentennial Year presentation.
Holy cow! Oh my God! What a fish! All right! Holy cat! Hold that up! Whoa.
Harry Reinfelder just boated the muskie of his life, 34 pounds, 49 inches long, and this fish was an accident. We were walleye fishing in Munuscong Bay, showing how to catch walleyes during the day in 5 feet of water the way they do up across the straits.
I'm all done.
Oh boy, I tell you, that's
man,
exciting.
Alive?
Well, we'll relive that moment. We'll show you how to catch those Munuscong Bay walleyes in just a moment, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in this state of Michigan.
We're on Munuscong Bay, a shallow body of water in Michigan's eastern upper peninsula. 3 hours of fishing, 3 nice walleye. Not bad considering her front was moving through and the fish had shut off. Harry Reinfelder owns a fishing resort on the South Shore, and he knows how to fish this bay.
Talked to a fellow a couple weeks ago who said they came up here for the first time, but the conditions were terrible. The water was all muddy, and they didn't do that well.
Well, probably they didn't do well, not because of muddy water. They did poorly because of the weather. The weather's a big factor. Water's always muddy. As long as the water's muddy, you'll catch walleyes. It's a shallow bay, and the light doesn't bother the walleye. We catch walleyes here in the middle of the afternoon. We don't have to wait till nighttime or at dark.
But there's sometimes an incredible number of boats out here. Hundreds of boats trolling back and forth in, 5 feet of water?
5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet. I heard some guys with lead head jigs up in 2 foot of water the other day doing real good. Tip with a crawler or even a rubber tail on the thing. Just snake them through the weeds.
Okay, that's the first couple weeks of the season. But what about June, July?
Well, as it warms up, you'll find them a little bit deeper. When I say a little bit deeper, from 2 foot to 7 foot, 8 foot. At times out in towards the shipping channel, get 12, 15, 20 foot of water. But most of the time, the bay the surface temperature warms up quite a bit. But we've got the St. Mary's, coming down through here and eddying back into the bay. And the warmest that thing gets is usually about 60. That's tops. So the bay never really gets hot, for the fish. And they're in here all year. Last year was an exception. We had high water. The wind didn't work up the bay, and we had clearer water. When you have clear water in Munuscong Bay, the fish move to deeper water. But as long as it stays muddy, we got fish.
So you want the muddy water. You want a little bit of wind and roiled up.
You bet. As long as she stays muddy, we've got fish in this bay. And this year it looks real good. The water's down about 18 inches, and it's kind of murky, and we're catching fish. And that's the way we like it.
What techniques you catch fish on, though? Do you don't have to long line them, do you?
No. Well, I like people that long line them. I sell them new lures because they get snagged up. But no, the main thing is a crawler harness with the crawler on it, maybe about 35 feet out behind the boat with a split shot, baby size, or depending on how fast your boat's going. With lead head jigs, tiny tads. Tiny tads are a great thing up here. The lure is designed to go about 4 to 6 foot deep, and that's ideal for Munuscong. Some guys do all right on some of the other lures, but they find they go a little too deep, and you're always hitting the bottom with them. The other thing is wrapless. If all else fails, a piece of worm on a hook and split shot will work good.
Now, what is on the bottom? When you say you get snagged here, there's not that many snags, are there? It isn't like a flooded reservoir.
No, you've got a lot of cabbage weeds, we call them, all over the bay. And we have some gravel bars. We have clay bottom. It's quite a mixture. A lot of crayfish, and I'm sure that's what draws the fish in here, and a lot of minnows. But a lot of weeds, that's the big factor. Weeds, you get hung up on the weeds all the time. But you have to, because that's where the fish are.
You have shallow water, murky water with weeds, minnows, crayfish. And that brings in the walleye, and what else?
People. It brings a lot of people in. No, brings
people-
muskie in. Muskie, you bet. There's a lot of muskie out there, and there's a lot of potential for muskie fishermen, but rarely do we have a muskie fisherman. But we catch a lot of muskie, and primarily because they're fishing a little too shallow for walleyes. But like I say every year, the muskie fishermen, if they get up here and fish, some of them say that the water's too big of water, not enough structure. But those fish, those muskie are at certain times of year are herded right up in a certain spot. And we know where that spot is, and that's where we go to get our muskie when we get a chance.
It is a fish? It is a fish.
It's a fish.
We have a muskie.
Grab my recorder.
We have a muskie. Get the net.
Got a muskie?
I think we do. Oh yeah.
It does.
We have a muskie.
Nice fish, Fred. It's right for this.
Holy. You caught the
thought it was
biggest muskie of your life with the camera on board.
Right. Just great. I couldn't have done better if I had planned it, Fred.
Yeah.
No, it was terrific. I had a chance to get out for a few hours. I purposely went over in the area where I know the muskie are, and put on a lure a little bit larger than I would normally use for walleye, just anticipating or hoping that I would hook into one. And the camera was rolling. We caught a muskie. Terrific.
Oh, yeah, that gets in that.
Talk about excitement. That fish caught us all by surprise. Pop Garner handed Harry the net without extending the handle. We were in a quiet panic, because this is a critical point where most big fish are lost.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh! What a fish! All right! Holy cow! Hold that up! Whoa! Whoa!
It looked easy. That muskie almost jumped into the net. Later that day, we caught a nice stringer of walleye and pike. Good eating fish from Munuscong Bay and impressive in their own right. The kind of fish the Bay produces all the time. But there's no doubt, on this day, Harry Reinfelder's 34-pound muskie stole the show. The great thing about Michigan is you never know what you're going to catch. It was a great fish that Harry caught. We'll get up there in a minute, but let's look at the conditions around the state. BJ Sporting Goods at St. Joe says rough water. That made the pier fishing a little rough, but they're catching walleye at the St. Joe River. Early morning, late evening. Woods and Waters at Grand Haven says excellent lake trout fishing, and that seems to be the best bet nowadays. Perch is great at Port Sheldon, and bass fishing good all day in the bayous of the Grand River. Captain Amos says lake trout is the best bet up at Manistee. Steelhead are 18 to 20 miles out. The windy weather has really turned things topsy-turvy around the state. Real Hunting Outlet in the southeast says tremendous fishing down there. Detroit River limits of walleye and silver bass. Same story according to Joe Harlow. The hot ponds in Saginaw Bay, they're also catching them about a mile out, but the walleye are a little smaller now, 13 to 18 inches. Now, Houghton Lake has had lots of hatches, lots of mayflies, and that tends to foul up the fishing. They get a lot to eat. The fish are getting a lot to eat right now. Bluegills are on the beds, but it's very windy. It's windy at Hubbard Lake, according to Will's Gun Shop. Walleye fishing is good if you can get out. The mayflies are hatching throughout the North Country. Ace Hardware says bluegills are on the beds in Charlevoix area. Lake trout, the best spot is around 9 Mile Point. Harry's place? Well, hey, you saw the fishing at Harry's. It's great. He says that's continuing. Conditions are good. Mid-morning, late afternoon for the walleye. Bayshore Resort says fishing is slowed down because of the cool weather. Nice pike at Gladstone Beach. Mayflies hatching. Thor's Minnow Shack at Munising. More weather problems. Fishermen can't get out until the afternoon, but there's some good fishing up there. Lots of wood ticks is one problem up in that area. Dick Blau up at Houghton. Dick's favorite sport says whitefish are in the bay. Everybody's fishing smallmouth bass, and the crappies are moving in on the beds. Mayflies are hatching, and they are getting some good laker activity up off Isle Royal. Lots of good fishing. How about if you catch one and get your name in our trophy book? Tom Hlinka from Grand Ledge called in a 20-pound gobbler in May. It had a 10 1/8 inch beard. Ed Lamoria from Bay City didn't find calling that easy this year. He stalked this 17-pound gobbler with a 10-inch beard up in Ogemaw County. Spring is bluegill time. Dave Rose caught this 11 3/4 inch, 1.5 pound gill on a MEP spinner from Gull Lake in Berry County. 13-year-old Pat Boynton from Saginaw caught his first trout this year on opening weekend, a 3.5-pound inland brown trout from Pine River in Gratiot County. Pat was casting a cottontail spinner. And here's a catfish that you might catch this summer, even though John Kulak already caught it.
17 3/4 pound, casting Belleville Lake.
Yeah. I was fishing for walleyes and I got my limit and I went over, I seen him splashing next to the bank and I went over and I threw a night crawler out and it didn't even hit the bottom and it hit it. I set the hook and it took off and went through the beams on the bridge. I went after him with my trolling motor. He went through the beams. I had to stick my rod around the beams, through the beams to get him out, to get the rod out of there. And then he took off and went down current and he covered about 240 yards before I got him stopped and got him up. It took me 36 minutes to get him out.
17 3/4 pound channel cat, 34 inches long. Where is it now?
I turned him loose.
Turned him loose?
I took some pictures. DNR verified it. I took him to the bait shop in the cooler. I took him to the fish market, got him weighed, and then I took him back to the lake and I dropped him back in the lake.
You know, you could do this every year with the same fish. You know that?
You'd have to be a lucky person.
You would. Well, you were John Kulak from Canton.
A great fish, a great story. That makes John Kulak our Michigan Outdoors Catfish Fisherman of the Week.
It's been a couple of weeks since someone destroyed almost 2,000 cormorant eggs on a couple of islands in northern Lake Michigan. Now, the DNR has authorized a $1,000 reward for information leading to the conviction of the guilty party. Other groups are offering rewards, too. If you have any information, call the DNR RAP hotline at 1-800-292-7800. Lake Superior State College biologists have released 19,000 7-inch Atlantic salmon into the St. Mary's River. This came on the heels of the college's release of grayling just a couple of days before. Representative Tom Scott's plan to offer a lifetime hunting and fishing license suffered at least a temporary setback last week when the House referred it to another committee to measure the full fiscal impact. And the Department of Natural Resources and the conservation group known as Walleyes for Iosco County are teaming up next month to construct an artificial reef in Tawas Bay. It's hoped the 5,000-ton limestone reef will attract walleyes and walleye anglers. Unusually hot weather has contributed to deaths among fish. Now, fish are normally stressed during this time of year because it's spawning time, but warmer than usual temperatures that deplete oxygen have added to the problem this summer. When Representative Jerry Bartnick introduced a bill last year to allow the DNR to protect turtles, many of his colleagues thought he was kidding. Now, the trouble is, it's really not a laughing matter. Reports from southwest Michigan say that Ohio and Indiana trappers have moved into Michigan because their own state turtle populations are extremely low. Now it appears the same thing is happening here in Michigan. And the only regulation for turtle trapping is that you must report to a conservation officer where you set your traps. There are no bag limits, there are no size limits or seasons. And that wouldn't be a problem if snapping turtles reproduced like bluegills, but for a snapping turtle to reach sexual maturity takes from 5 to 7 years. The snapper is more like a muskie, a species that has a short season, a minimum size, and a real conservative bag limit. Now, I understand why turtle trapping takes place. The meat from a snapper is about the most delicious meat you'll ever eat. Ending turtle trapping isn't the answer, but giving the DNR the authority to regulate the trapping of snapping turtles is. That would promote wise use of the resource, and that's the definition of conservation. Bartnick has already dusted off his bill from last year and reintroduced it. It's time for other legislators to get on the stick and get behind this bill before Michigan snapping turtles become an endangered species.
Deer hunting, Bob. We get such questions already in the mailbag about deer season.
Mike Waldner of Hudsonville writes, and he says, is it legal to set a salt block out by your tree stand if you remove it a week before hunting season? Can you still hunt there?
Well, we've discussed this at length. There's some big magic about salt. The people think deer are going to be attracted to salt. As far as I'm concerned, they're attracted to salt as much as they are a pan of water, which they may come and drink. Now, if you remove the salt block, technically...
Technically, you can't hunt over salt, okay? Now, if you've left a bunch of a salt block there for all year long and there's still salt in the ground, technically a CO could make a judgment call and write you for hunting over salt.
Because deer do seem to like salt in the ground, the way they go along roads in the spring and they get salt. I don't know, it's sort of a big to-do about nothing, but get rid of the salt block for sure.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. Don't leave anything apparent there.
That's right, but you can do it a week before a season. That's the answer to that one. Let's see if you can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
Black bears in Michigan hibernate during the cold winters when food isn't readily available. Do bears hibernate in warm states like Florida? Yes, even in the warm southern states, bears spend the winter months sleeping, just like their northern cousins.
Don Harris from Langsburg, a lifelong sportsman and former president of the Looking Glass River Sportsman's Club, a man with a disability that you might not think would affect his hunting and fishing.
Here's a guy who apparently, to look at him, doesn't have any disabilities. You had what? Is that called a tracheotomy?
Yes.
And how long ago did you have that?
Oh, it's been a long time. I was 29 years old at the time, Fred.
Now, what kind of disability would that be? I mean, when I first heard, it's a voice disability is what I thought, but I never thought of all the ways that it hampers, enjoying the outdoors. Does it?
Oh, it does. See, I had a complete laryngectomy. I don't breathe through my nose or mouth. I breathe right straight to my windpipe, to the trachea. And it's something to learn. When I talk, I have to swallow air. And then when I bring it back up, I create sound out of it.
Now, how does that affect, like, when you go out in a boat? You can't swim, could you?
Oh, no, I most definitely got one good life jacket on and another one handy, because I got to keep up above water.
Falling in the water would be treacherous for Don. He can't close the breathing hole to his windpipe, which is below his Adam's apple behind his shirt. That would be below the waterline if he fell in. His shirt filters out dust and warms the air before it hits his lungs, both of which can be problems in windy or cold weather. But communication poses special problems for Don outdoors, in emergencies, and in calling his rabbit dogs.
How do you call your beagles?
Usually clapping my hands.
Clap? Oh.
I teach them that. If they're out in the brush, and I can't scream at them. Not very loud anyway.
So when you want your dogs to come to you, what do you do?
Well, at first I train them with a pup. I got them on a rope, and I get them to the end of the rope. I want them to come back, I clap my hands.
Just clap them once or twice? Or?
Once or twice. Just pull the rope back until I get them back with me. And I teach them that. Next thing I know, I got them off the rope. They go, and I want them to go this way. I just clap my hands, point, and then they learn.
Now, what about when you were up in the woods, you were moose hunting with the guys?
Oh, well, that don't affect him moose hunting.
Well, now, you were telling me about a story when he was...
Yeah, with the woodpeckers?
Yeah.
Well, he was out in the swamp, and he was trying to get our attention, and he claps his hands because his voice don't carry that well in the woods, so he'd clap his hands. We thought it was woodpeckers. And we just walked around, his son and I both walked right on by him. And he was out maybe 200 yards out in the swamp trying to get our attention and he'd clap his hands. He'd clap his hands pretty loud.
But you don't think the times outdoors that you yelled to somebody to get their attention.
Right, he can't.
That's for sure. I had a nice young bull moose down, and I couldn't get these clowns to come over and help me with it. It's something you just don't realize.
Well, Don says he's still self-conscious about his disability, but he's worked hard to compensate for it. He still hunts, fishes, and enjoys his buddies outdoors. You'll see Don Harris at the outdoor fair. Ask him about that moose. You'll realize here's another guy with a disability who, like you and me, is determined to enjoy the outdoors forever.
Two handgun metallic silhouette shoots are slated for this weekend, one at the Kalamazoo Rod and Gun Club and the other at the North Oakland Sportsman's Club, which just reopened as of this Saturday. Only the Big Bore range will be open this weekend. Two Golden Arrow 3D shoots will be available for archers, one at Lost Arrow Lodge in Gladwin and the other at the Land O'Lakes Bowman in Fenton. Longbow shooters who use wooden arrows only will be gathered at the Muskegon Bowman Club for their summer rendezvous, an activity of the Michigan Longbow Association. Sunday in Chelsea, Piston Power Air Sports and Duffy Sporting Specialties will hold Southeast Michigan's second annual airgun shoot. Pneumatic, CO2, and spring-powered airguns of all calibers are allowed, a variety of distance and knockdown events, an interesting day for this up-and-coming sport. The following weekend, Anderson Archery hosts their 9th annual International Bowhunters Clinic in Grand Ledge, a premier event for archers. And for a taste of everything you've seen on this outdoor calendar, don't miss our outdoor fair June 26th through the 28th in Houghton Lake. Bring your bow for the Golden Arrow 3D course and novelty events. The kids and adults will enjoy trying the airgun range, visiting the muzzleloaders village, seeing the pointers and retriever training demonstrations, talking with 100 exhibitors, and participating in the seminars in the exhibit hall. But the new attraction this year is our Shooting Show Spectacular. What do machine guns have to do with the outdoors? Our shooting show will dispel many of the myths about guns that you see on TV and in the movies. We'll show you the positive recreational uses of guns, all kinds of guns, and the safe ways to use them. We'll show you some shooting tricks and ideas to make target shooting more fun with shotguns, rifles, handguns, muzzleloaders, and bows. And we'll run comparison tests to show you how different guns and bows perform. The shooting show premieres on Friday, June 26th at 2 p.m. Saturday shows will be held at 10, noon, 2, and 4 p.m., and Sunday at 11 and 1. Other special events include the Colonial Fashion Show at 1 o'clock on Saturday and the French and Indian Mock Battle at noon on Sunday. At 3 o'clock on Saturday, the second annual internationally sanctioned Stroh's Duck Calling Contest will be held. It's an attraction of championship callers from all over the Midwest. And Friday at 1 o'clock, the fair will lead off with an Outdoors Forever meeting at the high school. The Coast Guard Auxiliary will also be giving boaters free courtesy safety examinations, as well as putting on rescue demonstrations and conducting short courses in boating. It's going to be a great one. Don't miss the Outdoor Fair June 26th through the 28th in Houghton Lake. If you need a telephone number for more information on any of these events, call the Michigan Travel Bureau toll-free at 1-800-5432-YES, and they'll give it to you.
It's amazing how many ways there are twists you can put on a breading for fish. Walleye Tasca from Deb Fiorini up in Gladstone. This walleye, these little morsels that Rick and Deb run the Bayshore Resort up there.
Yes, and they know how to fix walleye.
Oh, man, I'll tell you this. Look at Garner with the plate up near his chin.
No fork.
I'm not going to use a fork either.
No fork either on these. This recipe has a number of ingredients in the breading.
They're different. You've got eggs. You've got 3 eggs and 2 cloves of garlic. Lemon. You can taste the lemon in here.
That lemon is good.
It's great.
A good addition.
White pepper instead of your black pepper. And you're going to use 2 tablespoons of flour.
$1 off on that, huh?
Yeah, good deal.
Can't miss that.
And a cup of Parmesan cheese. And you need some liquid, so you're going to add some cream.
Some whipping cream.
Yep. A 1/4 cup is all you need, too. And this is a thick batter because of the cheese and the flour. Like I say, you add a whole cup here.
Dump it in.
Yep, all at once. And 2 tablespoons of flour. You're going to stir all this up.
That's an awful lot of cheese, it seems.
Like I said, yeah, it's a real thick batter. And your white pepper.
You could use black pepper.
You could, but then they show up. The little specks show up.
Wouldn't look
white
as
pepper's
good.
just a little bit milder, too. And you're going to grate your lemon. You want it real fine pieces here.
Probably even better if you use a grater.
Sure.
And get it real fine.
Absolutely. You're going to mix that in. And your garlic, you can put all right in the batter. You want that real small, too, because you can taste that. And that's all your spices. That's everything. Just your lemon and garlic is what you taste, basically. And that's it.
So
you stir that up.
Mix those together, and that forms the breading.
Like I say, very, very thick batter. I was really surprised that it stuck to the fish, but it does. You got nice pieces of walleye here.
You could probably use most any fish that's boneless.
Sure.
She said cut it into bite-sized pieces.
Bite-sized pieces, and like Bob says, you don't need to use a fork that way.
Well, the smaller pieces also get more breading all around the edges of it.
Yeah.
And she
and
said
they
it's
fry quicker, too.
sort of like a pancake
Yeah, like I said,
mixture almost.
It's very thick batter. You're going to let that just fry in hot oil. And she says to use olive oil, so that's what we used.
I think she recommended maybe using a little butter in it, but sometimes the butter burns.
It'll give you a false sensation of browning, too. And these, you don't want to do that.
They do look like little pancakes there.
Yep, she said they would, and they do. And they are delicious.
Flip those over, and if they're small little morsels, it doesn't take long to cook.
No, you want to watch it closely.
And they turn out, oh, look at Garner. Garner, you must have had 6 or 8
Here,
pieces.
give me another one. Give me another one.
There's another one on there.
Tell you, Freddie, this is the most flavorful batter or breading or whatever combination I've ever seen. In fact, you know how I like the beer batter. I'm throwing away the recipe.
Oh, you're not going to throw that away.
I'm not kidding you. This is really enjoyable stuff. It's a flavorful. It's not breading. It's a very flavorful addition to it.
Sort of like
on everything.
A lemon cake or lemon cheesecake.
Almost like a little casserole.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you can eat 10 of them.
Or a couple. A couple dozen.
Anyway, folks, try this recipe. Get outdoors if you can this weekend. It's a great place to be. See you next week.
Information on hunting, fishing, and the shooting sports like you see on Michigan Outdoors is found in the Outdoor Digest magazine. Send for a free copy if you're not already a subscriber. In it, you'll find articles by top outdoor writers, a special Outdoors Forever supplement with information on enjoying the outdoors throughout your life and how to compensate for disabilities from accidents or aging. You'll find a page on each Michigan Outdoors show with the recipes. Here's that tasty dish we just prepared called Walleye Tasca. Trophy book information and a lot more. The May-June issue is yours for the asking. Write to us at Fred Trost Outdoors Club, Box 1775, East Lansing, Michigan, 48826 1775. We'll also send you information on the club so you can become a member and receive the digest regularly.
We were in a quiet panic because this is a critical point where most big fish are lost.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh! What a fish! All right! Holy cow! Hold that up! Whoa! Whoa!
It looked easy. That muskie almost jumped into the net. Later that day, we caught a nice stringer of walleye and pike. Good eating fish from Munuscong Bay and impressive in their own right. The kind of fish the Bay produces all the time. But there's no doubt, on this day, Harry Reinfelder's 34-pound muskie stole the show.